And I was just kind of doing a little bit of research.
So vitamin D1, 2, and 3 is something I need to look into. Got it.
Yeah, there's three sources of it, but and they'll just call it a vitamin D3, and then within those D3s, and I had this little formula because I remember I would ergocalciferol. That's the D2, and then you got the cholecalciferol, and then you got the alpha calciferol. Those are the threes, and then it's a fat soluble. It's a fat soluble, and the fat soluble vitamin, it helps your body to absorb calcium and phosphorus. So those three in conjunction. Those three, they work in conjunction. And when you don't have those three working in conjunction, we need, so I mean, we can keep digging. What do you need? You need the sun to synthesize the vitamin D, and then when you do have a lack.
So hold on, just so I'm clear, and I don't want to be wrong because I told somebody this the other day. They said, hey, so how important is vitamin D and where do the dogs get it from? I said, well, even if you put it in the diet, the sun had to synthesize it so that it could be absorbed and utilized.
You're 100% right, dude. 100% right. Because even if you are giving it in its source, if it's not being synthesized, then you're not igniting it. You're not igniting it. So then, within that, deficiency, or like say if it's not getting it in their they're not getting it in their food, and if they're not getting it synthesized through the sun, they can develop what's called rickets, rickets, or they can get osteomalacia. And osteomalacia, basically, it's a lack of phosphorus or vitamin D. That's all it is. And then from there, you can go into what's osteodystrophy, and that's basically the defective, or the defective of the bone formation, and and then basically the animals that are fed deficient, the deficiency in those type of vitamins, So what happens if an animal does happen to, happen to have that osteomalacia? It basically, they start to go into kidney failure. But and also you'll notice that animals that do happen to have that vitamin D3, which is those three that we went over, we're just for the sake of, we're just going to call it vitamin D3. You'll notice that their dogs will happen to go into infertility. And you'll notice that when, these people that have these little pot-bellied pigs and they keep them really small,
yeah,
that's how they do it. They reduce a lot of their food, and they'll reduce a lot of the vitamin, not just their A, but their vitamin A, D, and E. And remember, we spoke about that. They're the fat soluble vitamins are A, D, E, and K. K is not. I mean, it's important. Don't get me wrong. Vitamin K is important, but as those three vitamins in conjunction, they'll cause a deficiency. When that deficiency often occurs when food is not good, or it'll cause a poor it stunts their growth. And especially in young animals, and you'll see that when people sell these pot-bellied pigs and they look like really miniature. No, it's not that they're really small. It's because they've extracted those particular types of vitamins, and it stunts their growth. But also within that growth stunt, it'll cause infertility. And then, within that infertility is because of a decreased ovarian function. So then the reproduction disorders, and also with males, you'll see some sperm production. It'll cause a reduction in the size of their gonads. So, you got to be careful, and it'll be also cause abscesses or swelling in their gonads. And then you'll also see disorders in there. There's a really, really good injectable vitamin is called Vigantol. It's made by Bayer, and it just basically it's just a dose of A, D, and E, and we used to use it to treat specifically rickets in young pups, and so you got to be.
That's so funny that my grandfather, he had rickets growing up, and it got worse. My grandfather.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, man, he was an old joker, and guess what he lacked? He lacked all the vitamins and nutrients he needed as a kid, and his bones never properly developed. So as he got
They
older,
suffer from osteomalacia because that's exactly it. It's like a defective bone formation.
yep, and so his legs looked like two parentheses, but he wasn't bow
Yes,
legged. Yeah,
that's oh my god.
yeah, yeah. That's the irony, man. You
Oh,
know, it's
so
so
you
funny.
have a wow. Oh, dude. And now get this. Like, that's like another thing. Like, it's also known as osteodystrophies, and it's also very common in people that are feeding their animals an all meat diet.
That's
You know?
interesting. So, especially with dogs specifically, being that they're more omnivorous versus omnivorous than they are carnivorous. And the funny thing is that's the point Chris brought up too. He says, so you think you supposed to feed your dog raw? Look up how long a wolf lives on average. Then look up a coyote. He said, so coyote in the wild live 14 to 17 years, but that wolf only lives on average 6 to 7 years, and he only eat meat. What you think a dog needs?
Jeez. Well, and then, I started kind of like just kind of brainstorming. Okay, what else is things that are caused by that deficiency? And then I was thinking, okay, well, osteomalacia. And that's basically, those animals that are like, have like osteomalacia, they tend to crave to eat abnormal things. You'll notice that like they're eating clay, they're eating plaster, they're eating dirt, and when you take like an X-ray of those dogs, you'll notice these are like micro fractures around their ribs, their pelvis, and their long bones, like around their femurs. You'll see like little deformities on their spines, like when they start to inward or their curve. They actually call that lordosis, which is also a term they use when dogs tie up, or they'll see it when that spinal that curvature in their spine is turned outward. It's also called kyphosis, which is also happens in humans. And I was just thinking about like, dude, that's just something that just with basic, feeding of those three very important fat soluble vitamins, and then I don't know if you've ever heard that syndrome is called rubber jaw syndrome.
No, I haven't.
It's actually the correct term is called fibrous fibrous osteodystrophy. That's the correct, but just people would call it rubber jaw syndrome, and it's basically there's two types. It's two metabolic disorders, and within those, are you going to sleep, baby? Are you going to sleep? What's up, baby? That's why we're canceling your dentist appointment. So you were stressed about it. So it's taken care of. Don't worry. I got it all taken care of. D5. You thought I was going to be hanging. You better do good. Okay. All right. That's the same chair? Same time, same hour, same everything, right? All right. You better keep up. Putting high hopes on you. So within we're so very common. It's I'll pull up some pictures and show you, and those are just basic metabolic disorders. Same thing, deficiency of vitamin A, D, and E. And dogs with those particular disorders, they can also be suffering from hyperparathyroidism or hyperthyroidism, and it's basically when they've got the primary primary hyperparathyroidism, they're producing too much hormone of the actual what's causing the actual metabolism of calcium and phosphorus in the body. And
so let me ask you this on a side note.
It really affects younger dogs. It affects older dogs. And so what happens is those minerals are then being leached from the skeleton, and then when that's happening, when those minerals are being leached from the skeleton, the immature fibrous connective tissue, it's being replaced by something has to fill in that jaw, right? So it's being replaced by that fibrous connective tissue, and that's when it looks their jaw kind of turns rubbery. And that's why the term comes in from rubber jaw syndrome. So then, and then vice versa, when you have the other type, which is the hyperparathyroidism, you have an excess, you have excess phosphorus in the blood, and that in turn causes lower calcium levels. And in order, I mean, the first symptom you'll see their jaw looks like, oh man, all rubbery. But to be exact, we need to run. There's just no way to, this dog has that. You can see it, but then obviously we need to run blood levels.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, like, what other things? So, well, shit, there's also hypoparathyroidism. And I mean, dude, my mind was just fucking dude, I hate when I get into it because I just start like, oh, I go and I said, well, what else? I said, okay, stop. I need to fucking stop because I'm kind of putting this puzzle because I'm getting asked all these questions, but it started with infertility, right? They were asking about infertility, and the first thing I asked was, is your dog getting enough sun? What are you feeding your dog? How much, and I said, and then a part of me said, well, should I actually recommend this Bigantol? Because it's not hard to get, but that you need to put it into the muscle, and a lot of people, they don't get into the muscle, and if you don't get in deep into the muscle, and if you leave it subcutaneously, you can form a little bit of an abscess, and that's very common where people don't, they don't get it in deep enough, and they'll form an abscess, and I'm thinking like, oh man, so a part of me wants to like, I
would again, if I were you, just put the information out there so they can go and do their research. But this also puts us in position, yet again, just going back to the business opportunity, to really teach people stuff that's very simple. Drawing blood, how to manage this, things you can buy to better solve your dog's problems. Because even everything you're saying on the human side reminds me of, when somebody doesn't eat enough food and their body creates, basically eats the protein, aka the muscle, so it goes in a state of glucogenesis. And then even when you're saying the hypothyroid stuff, I'd imagine this could also affect the dog's mood as well, because people who have fibromyalgia and various things that are affected by the thyroid in itself, they can't regulate how they even feel at times because their hormones are all over the place.
Yeah, they get cold. Their hair turns brittle.
Yep.
They're mentally foggy. They're mentally fatigued. And just like you said, gluconeogenesis. A perfect example. And then like within don't quote me. I'm trying to remember as much as I can about hypoparathyroidism. And that's another example of where you have lower than normal amounts of parathyroid hormone, and that affects the levels of calcium and calcium and phosphorus. And that I remember very well because I remember it's very common in miniature schnauzers. And and that's another thing that it's susceptible when animals get distemper. Distemper can cause it, and so when you're when animals get it, usually calcium levels are high and phosphorus. When they have that hypoparathyroidism, usually calcium levels are high and phosphorus levels are low. And I remember because the ligaments get hard, they develop cataracts. Their bone volumes their bone volumes are pretty low, and the reason we can detect that, is usually through an X-ray. And their mental function is kind of foggy, And I remember, for whatever reason, miniature schnauzers were prone to it for whatever reason. And here we go again, the gene pool being very limited, and it's not necessarily line breeding or inbreeding, but it's just that's one trait. You mentioned something the other about sickle cell anemia. You look at the formation of the cells, they look like these little sickles, and that's, African Americans are prone to it. I'm sure Latinos are prone. I mean, Latinos have a really high rate of diabetes, So there's something that which in every, culture, same with, dog breeds, they tend to have a particular, what is that ingredient in, was it Heart Guard or was it Revolution or ivermectin, collies, bearded collies, they're allergic to it, so there's a particular thing that they're allergic to, so you don't want to be using that on collies, so when you're dealing with purebred dogs, you need to do your research, because there is almost a guarantee that they're going to be, I mean, boxers, the number one breed that are prone to cancer, you know? So be prepared. Be prepared. There's going to be something that, because of that pureness of that breed, something is going to ensue that. Something is going to entail that. They're going to be susceptible to something. So, you know, be prepared. You know, it comes with the territory.
Yeah.
It comes with the territory, you know? I mean, look at me with the damn Frenchies. I mean, there's a damn possibility that someone's going to fucking rob me for them, you know?
Oh yeah, but I mean that's a byproduct of something that's popular, unfortunately, and can be stolen. Ain't nobody stealing no goddamn pit bull. That's fucking. You're like them niggas will tear your ass to pieces.
I saw a lady today walking with an Anatolian Mastiff, and you know, I said, I think I know what it is. Can I take a guess? I say, wow. I say, you know, you're probably one of the, you know, I said, you must be a dog fancier. I said, well, I took a wild guess. I said, well, that was a real wild one. And, you know, I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to, like, you know, I love dogs, you know. And in the back of my head, I said, shit, ain't nobody taking her fucking dog.
At all, bro. They not fucking with that dog. That dog's 130 to 160 plus pounds, man.
And I was thinking, like, and I'm thinking, like, what the fuck is an Anatolian Mastiff doing walking around the streets of Fremont doing? And I'm thinking, like, shit. I mean, for me, that was a treat. That was like a fuck.
Don't you love seeing that though? When I love seeing like some random rare dog that you don't get to see, because you know, unfortunately, we see it in the dog encyclopedias. But you go, you know, if I get in contact, I say, yo, what made you choose this breed right here? Like, what about this breed means? Because I love that conversation, and it opens up their whole like thing about, like, they got a thing about dogs when they have something that unique.
Their eyes just fucking, as soon as you do that, their eyes sparkle, and it's like, well, and it's like they're in their world, and once they're in their world, I mean, they just like, I mean, it doesn't get more real than that, dude. It does not get more real than that, and it's like, you know, you just let them go, man. You let them go, and it's like, shit, you know, like, you know, those Burmese mountain dogs, you know, there's like a little club here that hangs out at the dog park, and when they get going, I was like, woo, you know, like, I knew it, you know, because they have that extra dew claw, you know, and it's like part of the breed standard, you know. And there was, you know, they were talking about, you know, they're telling us about that extra dew claw. It helps them when they're out there doing rescues and this and that. And I'm thinking, okay, that fucking extra dew claw ain't gonna do shit. But still, in their mind, you know, that's like, they almost make it sound like, fuck, that extra dew claw is like fucking, it helps them climb like Spider-Man, you know. And I'm thinking, like, you know, I'm thinking to myself, all right, cool, you know, like, okay.
Whatever helps you sleep at night, that's what you got to hit them with.
Exactly, man. I'm thinking, like, you fucking Fremont and shit. Okay.
Look,
I can see if you're in the Alps, or, you know, these dogs are like fucking, you know, look at the name, Burmese mountain dog, man. You know, shit, man. You got a fucking dog, you know, Fremont, you know, for whatever reason, man, there's like a big crew of Huskies out here.
Oh,
you know,
that's interesting.
Like kind of like a little club, you know. So I'm like, you know, of course, there's Washington Husky, you know. So I don't know if that has any correlation with that, but yeah, there is something. I don't know if because most of the brands of dog food that I'm seeing, they're very well, you know. The Avco does a great job. I don't know if the dogs are lacking fat and they're not absorbing properly.
Yeah, but then that goes back to the quality. Look, you know this because we talk about fish farming versus getting fish from the fucking water. Yeah. So when you start talking about them putting vitamins, aka vitamins, into dog food, what's the source, where they're sourcing them from, and how it's implemented, it probably affects absorption and utilization, which also affects the quality and integrity of the dog's life long term, because it's very difficult, based on my research on the human side, to really concentrate on a specific vitamin versus the people who might basically compound taking vitamin C but eat orange every day.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly right. You know, how much is what's the bioavailability of something?
There you go. And there's more vitamin C in a green fucking pepper than there is in a cup of orange juice. A bell pepper, my bad, a pepper, yeah.
You know, and yeah, if you go and get a fucking store-bought, Tropicana, there's more sugar in that shit. It's like, okay, now it's competing to extract, whatever, amount of vitamin, C you're getting and stuff. It's so, convoluted, and
I love that word, so man, much. Convolution. I told somebody the other day, like, what do you mean? I said, God, I forgot. Ruben, I love, even our conversations because I get to be challenged in a way where I get to, like, you force me to think because I don't know what the fuck you're talking about half the time. But the other thing is
oh, come on.
No, I mean, I know what you're talking about. I'm being funny, but even because again, I've studied the human side of things so much. I literally, like somebody translating a language, I'm processing what you teach me and share specific to dogs to humans, and then I'm like, okay, that probably applies to this specific to dogs, and you really help me make sense of stuff because I'm telling you, man, I've studied that human thing down to the fucking core, and
well, there's a lot of similarities, man. The more I think like the terminology is pretty much dead on, and I keep saying I'm going to go to storage and bust out those texts. I do need to brush up, man. I really do. Because like right now, I was just like in my mind, and I know there's got to be more, but man, you start going down that rabbit hole, and then, you want to come back up for some air, and you're like, oh God, okay, did I get that one right? Is it calcium and phosphorus, or is it phosphorus and rice and phosphorus and calcium? And I was even telling the coach, like, man, I think I got to go take my RVT license again, and I got to retake the exam. I want to talk to Dr. Smith and see if I can go sit down in some of Mrs. Fournette's classes. Is that going to be a problem? But then again, like I'm thinking out loud, and I said, yeah, with all the fucking time in the world that I've got, and there's got to be some kind of, like, I'm going to see if I'm like, with technology and everything, there's got to be some website or something that I can go in and just kind of brush up, like just brush up just to be on top of what's new out there, what's come up, what
I've got something in mind.
Regulations,
Yeah, but I've got something in mind that I think we both can build to help. For one, it would help me learn from your experience. And I think together, even doing something visually would help people basically be more supportive of the dog.